All right, here we go. This is what I call San Francisco barbecue. No, that's a bad one. San Francisco, Texas style barbecue brisket. Oh, yeah. Brisket. Love brisket. I've been eating brisket my whole life. Fell in love with it going to culinary school and having Tommy's Joynt brisket for the very first time. And having it that way, I was immediately in love. The culinary school that I used to go to back in 2004 was located right up the street from Tommy's Joynt. And after class, some friends and I would head over to Tommy's Joynt around 11 o'clock at night and had some brisket. And so after having many iterations of it throughout my whole life and bringing it to some restaurants and doing my own version of it, I eventually had Aaron Franklin's and started a business centered around this very idea of bringing it to San Francisco. And was it successful? It depends. Yes, it was. But like anybody who tried starting their own food business, it is a grind, and it's a crazy grind. And especially when you're busy, it takes up lots of time, lots of your life. There are no days off if you want to be successful in the food business. And especially with barbecue, that just adds much, much more. I cut it in half. Yes, I do. A lot of barbecue purists will be triggered by this video, seeing the things that go on here, especially if you're from Texas and you're seeing that your brisket has just been cut in half. Well, it's not your brisket. It is San Francisco style, Texas barbecue, not even barbecue, I don't like that word, Texas smoked brisket. And that's the last time I'll use Texas. So this is San Francisco style brisket. This is a warehouse. And the warehouse is not used for catering. It's just used to house this smoker. Shout out to G-Stack Smokers and Pits, who I found in Northern California over 5 years ago when I first started the business. He custom made this to the specifications and was just a pleasure to deal with. And he made this beast of a machine that has stoked literally my love for being around the fire. And this is it, and cooking meat. And so this is it. We're doing it. We don't have, that's Chino. Chino's
There's no snow.
from Edmonton, Canada. And he came down for New Year. He brought his own meat. We're making brisket together. He makes his own barbecue up in Canada, Edmonton, and he sells it. So if you're around there, check out Chino's Smokehouse, Gransfors Brooks, Axe. I keep charcoal around just in case, so I don't have to throw in a brand new log if there's only a few much. So this is it. This is the difference. We cut it in half. We separate the fatty part and the lean part because they cook very differently, and for you to keep them together is quite skillful. And for Aaron Franklin to keep them together and have them cooked very consistently is a skill in itself. But we don't have time for that here in California, in San Francisco. There's a lot of things to do. So we cut it in half. And I'm using what I have on hand. The rub is Montreal steak seasoning. You can find it in Costco. I normally would make my own rub, but that's all I got. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm not going to waste anything. This is spiced vinegar with chili soaking in it. It's a Filipino-style vinegar called Datu Puti. And this version has chilies soaking in it, so it gives it a nice little spice. You spray it down every 30 minutes in the first couple of hours to impart the more smoke flavor. This is the first 30 minutes right here. I'm spraying it every 30 minutes, opening the door. And just spraying it down. Chino saved some fat right there at the top. We have some pork butts going at the very end, and we're smoking. This is oak wood, right out of Lazari's lumber yard, the local supplier of charcoal and barbecue wood, all types of wood. This is oak wood. So yeah, just tried to duplicate as much as possible. I think this is after hour 1 or 2. Looks pretty good. Now, couple of other differences here. The Montreal steak seasoning is pretty thick, so I laid it thick on there and made sure to imprint a lot of the onion, salt, pepper granules. And here we're just managing the fire. This is right before New Year's. A rainy season here in the Bay Area, and the sun came out right before New Year's just so we could do this. That's amazing. That's my dog Riley. Yeah, just managing the fire. Same thing that you do in Texas. And I guess this is a Texan thing too, except you'd be doing it in your own backyard. But we don't have that luxury, like I said before. This is a warehouse that we use for other purposes, in addition to housing this unit. Yep, what is that? A water tray. Okay, so we transported it from the house. We brought it here to the warehouse, which is like 10 minutes away from where I live. And then now we're bringing it back. We're keeping everything still sanitary. Driving back to San Francisco, nobody in San Francisco, at least as far as I know, has a commercial style Texas barbecue pit in their backyard. Nobody has a big enough backyard. Chino also scored his flat part of the brisket, as they do in like lechon style roast pork, whole roasted pork to penetrate that fat. So I thought that was a pretty good idea. This is how I used to do it. We used to smoke 200 pounds of brisket almost every week and sell them at farmers markets, catering events, maybe even more. Sometimes 400 pounds I think I did in 1 week, 2 loads. And I would separate the flat and the point in separate pans because they cooked at different times, or they finished cooking at different times. But cooking at the house, that's the pork butt right there. Like I said, we're cooking at the house, and I don't have that luxury of having massive commercial ovens. So it's got to go all together, and I'm just going to pull it out, the fatty parts, when they're ready. And this is just some regular ass roasted potatoes. I think I quarter them, throw them in the bowl, a little bit of oil, some chili pepper, chili powder, salt, pepper, and a little bit of lemon juice, and that's it. Roasted in the oven. Oh, that's a Jika seasoning from Trader Joe's. I love the spice blends from Trader Joe's. Hey, and if you're an artisan and you like making your own spice rubs, great, good for you. I respect it. It's just not my style anymore. I'm trying to get in and out of the kitchen. I like to be active. I like to create other things besides stay in a kitchen all day, which I did for 15 years of my life. Sometimes 7 days a week, and sometimes for the holidays. So every holiday I get, I'm 40 years old. I'm trying to spend it with my family and do things that I want to do. And so this is Chino's idea. Those pieces of fat that you saw hanging at the top of the shelf, or the top shelf of the smoker, he smoked, and he's chopped it up into pieces, and he's going to use that as fat for his Brussels sprouts that I cut for him. And these are just regular squash, yellow squash, and zucchini. And this is it. This is after 3 hours. And you can see with a meat fork, after stabbing it a couple of times, easy in, easy out. And so carefully, you can see the juices. I didn't put any additional juice in the pan. It just came out that way. And the natural steam just kind of envelopes in there with the tight industrial strength foil. And that's the 2 points. The test. Yes. The jiggle. Look at that. Yep. Give it a slice. Smoke ring. Some people say the smoke ring is just for looks. Doesn't really offer any type of flavor or show. You could still have a lot of smoke flavor and not have a smoke ring. You can have a smoke ring and not have a lot of smoke flavor. But this is about 3 hours of smoke. 3 to 4 hours of smoke. And they say 6 hours. 6 hours is the max until a piece of meat no longer, until smoke no longer imparts its flavor on the meat. And in Texas, that's when they wrap it up and keep it in the smoker. And then they sit by the smoker. You guys in Texas sit by the smoker for about 10, 11 hours sometimes. This method avoids all that. If you have a smoker at home, you can try this at home. Slice it in half, smoke it for 4 to 6 hours. You don't have to sit next to it if it's a pellet smoker. But I find a lot of satisfaction in managing log fires and trying to burn clean as possible. Yeah, so this is it. This is the brisket right here. And then you throw it into a big pan, or you could keep it in the foil. It's just got to be wrapped tight. 3 to 4 hours. 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours for the fatty part. 3 hours you want to check the flat part, and they should come out very moist and juicy and tender. And yeah, as you could see here, it's nice and tender. The juices are coming out really nicely. They still hold, the meat still holds together, and it's not hard or tough. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. And this is San Francisco Style Smoked Brisket.